Let's be real. How do you live in a world that feels, well, kind of broken? It's a huge, overwhelming question. But what if the answer isn't some single grand solution, but a collection of tools? Today, we're going to assemble a toolkit of ideas from some pretty incredible thinkers to help us navigate all the imperfections in our world. So, let's get started.
And this right here, this beautiful, powerful line from Leonard Cohen, it's really our starting point. This single metaphor is the key to everything we're exploring. It completely reframes the whole problem, right? It asks us, what if our flaws, our societal problems, our own personal brokenness, what if they aren't just mistakes we need to fix? What if they're actually openings?
So, that's the big question, isn't it? How do we actually find that light? Well, we're going to dive into a toolkit of different lenses and actions, drawing on the wisdom of artists, activists, and even satirists to see if we can figure out some answers together.
All right, so our first tool in the kit is something we all use every single day, language. You see, the words we choose have this incredible power. They can either be used to kind of paper over the world's cracks, hide them away, or they can shine a huge spotlight right on them, helping us see what's really there and maybe build something better.
The comedian George Carlin, he had this absolutely brilliant term for language that just hides the truth. He called it soft language. And his whole argument was that we use these polite, almost clinical-sounding phrases to put distance between ourselves and harsh realities. And in the end, that just makes it harder for us to actually face them. In this example he used makes his point crystal clear. Think about the term shell shock. It's visceral, right? You can almost feel the trauma just in those two words. But then you get post-traumatic stress disorder. It just sounds like a detached medical diagnosis. Carlin's whole point was that this shift isn't an accident. It's designed to drain the raw humanity, the honesty, right out of the experience, which of course makes it a whole lot easier for everyone else to ignore.
But okay, language isn't just a tool for hiding the truth. It can also be an incredibly powerful tool for building a new one. And if you go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum from Carlin's soft language, what do you find? You find the visionary words of someone like Martin Luther King Jr. Just think about that phrase, "I have a dream." King repeating that over and over. That wasn't just for style points. No way. It was a strategic tool. It created this rhythm, this anthem that just hammered home his central vision for what equality could look like. It took this huge, complex idea and made it completely unforgettable, uniting millions of people under one single powerful hope.
Okay, so we've got our first tool, being really intentional about the words we choose. But what about the cracks themselves, the imperfections? Well, our next tool is all about changing how we see them. It's a lens that asks this kind of radical question. What if imperfection isn't a bug? What if it's a feature? And this brings us right back to where we started, with Leonard Cohen. The absolute heart of his idea is this: the crack. Our flaws, our brokenness. That's not the problem. The light, the hope, the truth, it doesn't show up in spite of the crack. It can only get in through the crack. It's like our imperfections are the very pathways that allow for healing and growth to happen. Okay, so embracing our own personal flaws, that's one thing. But what happens when an entire society gets obsessed with something completely trivial? The writer Vaikom Muhammad Bashir had this amazing satirical take on this, showing just what happens when we all focus on a really, really ridiculous imperfection. The story is just wonderfully absurd. So there's this man, and his nose just keeps growing. That's it. But instead of, being a medical issue, he becomes a global superstar. Politicians are fighting over him, the media obsesses over his every move, and through this hilarious, over-the-top story, Bashir is basically holding up a mirror to our own society, to our obsession with vanity, and just how easily we all get distracted by stuff that, just doesn't matter.
All right, so we've tweaked our language, we've adjusted our perspective, but just seeing the cracks, that's not enough, is it? So the third and final tool in our kit is all about what we do. This is the lens of action. How do we actually respond to all the injustice and imperfection out there in the world?
And a really foundational idea here comes from Gandhi, with his concept of ahimsa. Now, it's usually translated as nonviolence, but it is so much more than just not fighting back. Gandhi himself called it an active force. It's about actively practicing love and compassion, and having this incredible moral courage to face injustice without hitting back, all in the hope of transforming society from the inside out.
And you can really see how this core idea of taking action branches out in different ways. For Gandhi, it was ahimsa,
For Martin Luther King Jr., who, by the way, was hugely influenced by Gandhi, it looked like civil disobedience. But it doesn't always have to be a big political protest either. For a community artist like Amy Morales-Lara, action is using art to help people heal and build up their resilience. The methods might be different, but the goal? It's always the same: to actively do something to help mend the world's cracks.
So there you have it. We've looked at language, we've looked at perception, and we've looked at action. We've started to assemble this toolkit for seeing the world not as just broken, but as cracked, full of these little openings where the light can get in.
And it just feels right to leave you with one more line from that same Leonard Cohen song Anthem, because it's really the call to action that ties this whole toolkit together. He says, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering." What does that mean? To me, it means don't wait until everything's perfect. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Just use the tools you have right now. Just act.
And maybe that's the real takeaway here. There's no one single magic answer for a cracked world. It just doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean there's nothing we can do. What we have is a collection of powerful tools. We've got the clear, honest language from Carlin, the incredible visionary hope from King, that embrace of imperfection from Cohen, and that deep courage to act from people like Gandhi and so many others.
And so that leaves us with one final question. And this one isn't for me, it's for you. You've seen the toolkit, you know about the lenses, you've seen the methods for action, so the only real question left is, which of these tools are you going to pick up, and how are you going to let the light in?